Well, hello YouTube! In today's video we're going to look at the community update and also see what's going on with the new logo and branding. Do we like it? Do we not? And what's the reason for it? Do we think? Let's get over to the main screen, shall we, so we can see what's going on in the world of NFTs and all that kind of good stuff. First up we got this. For better or worse, NFT open editions are on the rise. Now for those of you who don't know what open editions are, they're basically NFTs but completely open editions, as in you can mint as many as you like, and normally there's like a time limit or something like that, or they can essentially go on forever, I suppose, depending on what the actual creator decides to do. And this seems to be a new meta for NFTs of late, that everybody is trying to mint these open editions. Now there's several things to say about them, I guess. There's some good things and there's some bad things, so here's my little thoughts on it. First off, and that is that Veve is way ahead of this. Because essentially, if you think about it, Veve is kind of like open editions in a way. Now, there is obviously cut-offs for it. There is obviously a amount that they mint up to only, but their editions generally are a lot more than other NFTs out there on the market, you know. But by that same standard, they're also cheaper, because that's one of the good things about open NFTs, or open mints essentially, is that it means that the NFTs are cheaper. So therefore, people are buying them not because they are speculating on the price going up in the future because of the fact that they, you know, they're scarce, but they're buying them because of the fact that they like them. It's a bit like putting a poster on your wall or something like that. So you're buying it because you enjoy the fandom of it. So for instance, say if, I don't know, like Taylor Swift or something sent out a picture of herself as an NFT, then lots of her fans would buy that picture just to have it. Not actually to sell it at a later date or something like that, but just to have it as a, this is a picture that I've got of her. Now, the good thing is that they're all cheap. So generally they're a lot cheaper than, you know, with open editions. And if you think about it, Veve NFTs are very cheap as well. You've got your comics at $7.99. You've got, you know, some of your mighties at, you know, 10 quid or whatever they are. I can't even remember how much they are. But the point is that they're a lot cheaper than the average, you know, 10,000 NFT or something like that. And generally the editions are higher. So I think kind of Veve sort of got on the trend of this before it actually become a thing. Before open editions has become a new meta, Veve are already there with their editions. Now, I'm guessing that as more and more people come into the app, the editions of things are going to get bigger, because of the fact that although, you know, there's not as many people in the app at the moment to satisfy maybe the editions they're doing now, when there's more mass adoption, then these figures will pale in comparison to the amount of people there will be. So for that reason, I guess you could say they're not doing open editions or anything like that, but what they are doing is something that open editions have also adopted, and that is that with open editions, what you can do is you can buy your edition or whatever it is you're getting, and then you can burn a set amount of them to get a better version of it. And that's essentially what Veve have just started coming out with, or there's rumours they're going to come out with. And David, you alluded to this fact that if you've got a certain amount of commons or something like that, which essentially is an open edition because you've got, you know, some have got 40,000 or whatever, then you could say that you could then take those commons and you can burn them to get something better. So therefore, I think, sort of, as I said, I think Veve ahead of the game on this one. So even though it's become the new meta now, it's been the way of Veve all the way along. So when these people are saying, oh, there's too many editions and all that kind of thing, you know, is that the new meta anyway? So why does it really matter? Now, to me, the only thing about this is that it's a bit like stock photos in a way. If you've got an open edition and anybody can just buy them at any time, then it's basically like buying a stock photo. So why would anybody bother? But then you could say that about stock photos. You know, people buy stock photos, people buy art. You know, I went round a friend's house the other day and they had some Banksy art on the walls. Now, it's not real Banksy art, obviously. It was just something they bought on Amazon or something like that, but they like it because it's like Banksy and they put it on their wall. And it looks like they got Banksys. They know it's not the real thing, but they still like it. And I guess that's kind of like open editions in a way. You might have artists who do one-of-ones and stuff like that, and then they'll do other artworks, which are open editions that other people can afford, but they still have that ability to be able to buy it and have something from that fandom, which is essentially what Veve are doing as well. So, yeah. As I said, it's a bit like a poster on a wall. So there you go, that's my sort of a little thing about open editions, but let's move on to the next thing, which is this, and that is all about the Veve logo and branding. Obviously, we've had a lot going on in this last update. I'll go through some of the stuff in the update as well. I'm not sure if I put these slides in the right order, so we'll get to that in a second, but this is Gasto on Twitter, and he basically showing the Veve logo evolution, which I think is really interesting, because for those of you who don't know, Veve have just changed their logo, and everyone's talking about it, basically. So we've got the 2021 is the V as usual. 2022 they brought out this new one, but they didn't really talk much about this. It just sort of suddenly appeared and no one really spoke about it, and everyone just sort of went, oh well, it's very similar to the old one. Whereas now they brought out this new one, which is the Heart V, in essence, or a taco holder, as somebody said, which was quite funny. They put a taco in between it, which looked quite funny. And now 2024, who knows, soon, as Gastel says. So there you go. So that's the different logos. Now, there's a lot of backlash about this logo, and I can understand why. You know, I think it's all right. I don't think it's, I wouldn't go crazy over it. But then at the same time, I'm not really looking at it as, you know, oh, Veve needs a logo to succeed. So therefore, I suppose if you look at it that way, then maybe you would say the logo, it does look like a dating app, as somebody said. So therefore, it looks more like a dating app that you would go to, you know, to find love or whatever, than it would to be a collectibles app. And I find that funny, and I'll show you that in a minute. But someone said here, anyone else not a fan of the logo? I feel like they missed the mark here, given the core fan base is 30 to 40-year-old men. Well, that's true. At the moment, the core fan base is 30 to 40-year-old men, purely because of the fact that it's crypto-based. But what we've got to remember is that Veve don't want to be a crypto-only company. They don't, although they're on the blockchain, they are for collectors, and they are trying to advertise to collectors and get people in who are not just there to speculate, grab the thing and try and flip it to try and make some money. That's not what they want. They want people who are collectors and who are going to hold this stuff. And what better than the fandoms of the companies that they're putting out there? For instance, LOL dolls, which a lot of people forgot about. Remember, we've got the license for that. Now, is that going to be a market for 30 to 40-year-old men? Probably not. So therefore, you know, obviously there's going to be some of us that buys them, but the point is that that's not the market for them. You know, Barbie in itself, is that going to be the 30 to 40-year-old man bracket? Maybe it will be, I don't know. But the point is that I think that the reason they've gone down this route, the reason they're changing, is because of the fact that they need to change the demographic of what they're doing. They need to try and shift to a younger demographic and a different demographic to what they've got at the moment, because at the moment they're getting in crypto bros who are speculating on price and flipping and doing it for the money, whereas what they actually want is collectors who are buying things. You know, it's a bit like comics. I don't cater to people who are buying the comics and holding on to them. Comics cater to the fandoms of those things, and therefore people who read the magazines, read the comics, normally they just throw them away afterwards. Well, Veve kind of wants to be like that, and at the moment they're very much on the crypto side of it. So the logo being a shield to keep the product safe and secure confirms that interoperability is not happening anytime soon, in my opinion, says Sam Ellis. I have to agree with that. I think that's probably the case. I think they've always, from the very start, they've always talked about the fact of keeping the assets safe and secure, and therefore not needing a key phrase, not needing any of that anyway. Obviously, they started talking about interoperability more because of the fact that people were asking for it. But what you got to remember is the average user coming in isn't bothered about that. Only the crypto bros are. So therefore, by changing this into the heart, by changing the way they talk about the collection, rather than it being Veve digital collectibles, it's now loving collectibles, or whatever the slogan is. I can't remember what it is. But it's that, rather than being about the collectibles themselves, it's about the love of collecting. And that's kind of the brand they're going down. So they're trying to attract collectors, not flippers, basically, I think is what we can gather from that. As David Yu says, there is always a story behind everything we do at Veve. Now, this has actually led some speculation down different routes, and I'll show you some of that now. Because somebody here, Afish or Veve Jin, I'm just going to leave this here, he says, because as you can see, that this is very, very similar to the Meta logo in color and everything. However, one thing I will say on that is that they don't seem to have a specific color anymore. Before we had the sort of silver and the blue, the white and the blue, and that was kind of the general theme with the grey sort of background. Well, now on some of the parts they've got orange with different shades of orange, and on some of it they got blue with different shades, some of it with purple. So it doesn't seem to be any specific colour. So maybe this isn't tied to Meta whatsoever, and it just so happens that it's very, very similar to the colours. But then there's a possibility with that as well. You can see here the select the digital collecting app, which I think is quite funny, because as you can see, you can't really from that you can't pick out a digital collecting app. You can see the dating apps. You can see one about health. I guess that's what that is. I'm not actually sure what they are either, though, to be honest. So Mamba, no idea what Mamba is. Haven't even looked into any of these. So therefore, I suppose you could say, well, I don't know what any of those are. But heart does seem to be overused. But then at the same time, they're talking about the love of collecting. So it kind of makes sense, I suppose. But I wonder whether one of the reasons they changed it as well is because they wanted something that filled the screen on the app, rather than it being the Veve logo. Like if you look Mamba there, you can see it, but they've also got the heart behind it as well. And that's what they're essentially doing with this. They're going to have Veve written in the middle of it. And it's a different font as well. So some people are speculating that it's because of the fact that the blue, you know, with Meta. Others are speculating that it ties in with Disney colours as well, because it kind of ties in with the Disney colours that they have as well, the purples and the blues for Disney. And if that's the route they're going down, then that makes sense as well. Also, others are speculating that the reason the logo was changed was purely for legal reasons. As in one of the posts, I'm not sure if I put it here, I don't think I did put it in these things, but Alex actually says that the old logo is no more, there's no going back. There's no way to change it now, or something like that, or they aren't able to change it. So in other words, they literally are put into this position. So does that mean that there's some kind of legal possibilities that means that they can't use the old logo anymore? And if you look at Vivo, that's very, very similar. And there's also another Veve as well, which is in the App Store. Now it's coloured, but it's very similar texting. So, and you know, if you type in Veve in general, you can find a whole list of apps and stuff that have got the Veve as their name. With a similar logo, so maybe they want to differentiate themselves from those as well, or maybe there really is a legal proceedings of some kind, and that's what's going on. I don't know, that's just speculation. That's just speculation from Twitter. So basically the speculation is that they either changed for those reasons or they changed for others. I personally am going down the route of they changed because they wanted something that looked like the V. They wanted the heart of collecting because that's what they wanted. They wanted to show the love of collecting, and they want to move the demographic so that way it's collectors and not flippers and crypto bros. That's the only thing I can come up with. So yeah, let me know what you think of the logo in the comments anyway, and we'll go from there. Now, of course, we got the all the different things that they were talking about in the update. Now, I'll be honest, I can sum up the update in one word, which is pretty much soon, because there wasn't really anything that was actually talked about that is guaranteed or definite. But they did say a few things. So Q1 priorities, waitlist, MCP, merge accounts, they are the Q1 priorities, so at least we know they're coming. The merge accounts, obviously that released today anyway. If you've got an account that you need merging, then you can do that for a limited time. Make sure that you keep your Omi though. Make sure you transfer it out before you merge accounts, because you will lose it. And the amount of times they've said it on Twitter, doesn't matter. There's someone always who's going to come and say, I've lost my Omi because I merged accounts. But, you know. Branding. The change overall branding is welcome to a new era of Veve, collectors at heart. That was the slogan. I beg your pardon. I was saying like love of collecting, but no, collectors at heart. So, you know, it makes sense to have the heart and the close to the V and all that sort of stuff. You know, I don't know. It's not my personal favourite. But one thing I will say is that when Coke brought out their new version of Coke, the taste, I didn't like it. I was like, ugh, this is horrible compared to the other one. And I didn't drink it. And then about a week later, I was drinking the Coke and I completely forgot about it. So, you know, when they bring out new logos, Pepsi, you know, they used to have the old logo. When they brought out the new logo, you know, brands change as they go, you know. And sometimes it's just about updating it and seeing what happens. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, then they go back to, they change it again or whatever. It doesn't matter. The company stays the same. The branding is always going to be the name. And you know, it just changes over the years as it goes. You know, if you look at Coca-Cola logo, Pepsi logos, all those, they change just ever so slightly over the years anyway. So you know, maybe they're going down that same route, maybe they're changing it every so often. Search bar phase 1, search bar phase 2. It's quite funny, they got 2 phases for a search bar, isn't it? But I guess it's a lot more complicated than what we realise, because it's probably not just a case of sticking in a search bar, but they've got to do all the data behind it as well, which is the hard part. So you've got search bar phase 1, which is complete already. You can now search for a few things in your bar. Search bar phase 2, fortifying the underground capability, will keep rolling out until all issues have been resolved. So basically all the issues will be resolved and that'll be sorted. KYC in the coming months, new users will not have to KYC to participate in drops. I think this is really good, because as they said, it will take the friction away, because there was somewhat a lot of friction, and Dan sort of alluded to this anyway, when everyone was crying about the bots and saying put KYC in and it will stop the bots. Well, it doesn't for a start, but you know, a lot of the steps they've taken have stopped the bots now, or well, maybe it's because of the fact that it's not as popular anymore, maybe as well, and the bots aren't making any money, so they don't need to be on the platform. But then when it does get more popular, they'll come back again. But what will probably happen now is that they are moving KYC further down, which is great, because that's what, you know, a lot of other companies do as well. I think DC do that. You don't have to KYC till you cash out. What would be good is when you cash out, you have to do a facial recognition for the KYC you put in. But even then, it can be worked around, can't it? At the end of the day, because what can happen is the bots can go for all of the the collectibles. They can then transfer them all to the main account, and then that can then cash out the account, and then they can use KYC to cash out on that KYC account. So, you know, it makes it easier in a way for bots to come back, because of the fact that they don't have to KYC every account. They can just make loads of accounts, buy on the drop, and then when they want to cash out, they just send them all along. But at the same time, will that sending along mean that then Veve are aware of what's going on, and therefore they can then shut down that account quicker? Who knows? I don't know what things they've got in place, and they don't normally tell us for obvious security reasons, but you know, it's kind of interesting to know whether or not that's going to happen or not. And even with KYC with facial recognition, as long as they've got one person who's actually KYC'd and has their face as the thing, you know, they can still do facial recognition and still cash out no matter what, can't they? So there's not going to be stopping bots really, but it does make it harder for them, obviously, and it makes it less difficult for users, because you know, when you've got a KYC before you can do anything, then it kind of makes the app experience a little bit, you know, it's not as sticky, is it, essentially? You know, people coming in, most people, to be fair, most people who are going to come in as collectors won't be bothered about the KYC experience. They won't be like, oh, I'm not putting my passport in. But the point is that if you've got to do it from the get-go, you're kind of a bit like, oh, well, I'll do that later. Whereas what they really want is they want to get users in the app. They want to get them getting the drops, get stuck to the app, get sticky in the app, and then they can start, you know, putting in the KYC restrictions and everything. So it's quite good that they're doing that, I think. It's a really good thing. IP updates coming this year is the Brambo confirmed, collaborations with brands and artists, and Fidgetals as well. David Yu talked about the Fidgetals, said they're coming very, very soon as well. I think he said something about Q2 or Q3, and then lots rolling out in Q4 or something like that. I can't remember exactly what he said, but check out the update anyway. I'm sure if you go to their YouTube channel, then you'll see it on there. The merge accounts, obviously, we know the merge accounts is always coming, is already happening, and I think there was a release today saying you can now put in a form to merge your accounts. Master Collector Program, phase 1 is slightly delayed, so we know that. They didn't say when it was going to be definitely in. And phase 1 is essentially going to be how many points you've occurred and how many, you know, you can do a tally of your points, and it will take about a week or something to do your points or something like that. I don't know. But the thing is that even if you know how many points you've got and all that kind of thing, it doesn't mean to say you're going to be able to get in with the drops, because it's going to be nothing to do with that at the moment. Crypto paying back into beta testing will open up when all users start with issues addressed. Marketing ready to start scaling at a much bigger level. Will start to target very specific collectors, so that's interesting. And obviously the rebrand now means that they can go out and they can start doing that, I guess, because of the fact that they've rebranded the whole thing and they're happy with their rebrand. Whether you are or not, it doesn't really matter. The point is that they are, so therefore they start marketing it and they start bringing users in. Simple as that. So that'll be great for everybody who's already in Veve, everyone who owns Omi. As soon as the OUP comes out and then they start using Omi as well, then, you know, it's going to all kick into gear. So it's exciting stuff that they've done this rebrand and they've come out with it. So Veve bring out more comic content from various publishers. Oh yes, David, you said about this comic thing. He said that there was going to be more comics, but from smaller brands that aren't as well known, but they can't all be top tier brands, is basically what he said. So he kind of put the damper on the comics before they even come out. But I'm guessing that these are, you know, smaller publishers, as he said. So, you know, some people are going to be excited about it. Some people are just going to be like, what's this? You know, like we were for many of the drops. But, you know, every person has their fandom. And I guess that's the point. They want to bring people in. That is the point of collectors at heart. To bring collectors into the app, not crypto bros and not moon boys and not... you know, not people who are just in it to speculate and flip, simple as that. And, you know, hopefully that is what's going to happen. But anyway, that's it for me today. Thank you very much for joining me, as always. Don't forget, this isn't financial advice. Anything I've said in this little video or any of the videos previously or after, nothing financial in there whatsoever, so don't take any of it to heart, because crypto can go up, it can make you loads of money, or it can go down, you can lose everything, including your hoodie. But that is, of course, essentially crypto. Thank you very much, and I will see you on the next one. Bye bye for now.